Hello, everybody. I'm Carla Hillhorst, as already mentioned, and I lead nutrition, so the foods R&D for Unilever worldwide. I'm a food scientist by training, and food is still the area I love. And I probably speak to the converted, but I love working in this space because you touch the life of people every day. I love the emotion. I love the cultural aspects in food. And I think we are realizing more and more how important food is to also make sure that we have a healthy planet. Well, maybe a few words about R&D in Unilever. We invested in 2022 850 million euros. We have about 5,000 people working across the globe. Something I'm quite proud of is that at the moment we have in 50% of the managerial positions, we have women. So we really made a good shift there. And we recently invested 85 million euros to build a new global food innovation center in Wageningen in the Netherlands, which we nicknamed Hive. So just to give you a bit of context. So let me talk a little bit about Unilever's journey to net zero. And I think what's important to mention is that sustainability is not an add-on or a separate department within Unilever. Our purpose is to make sustainable living a commonplace. And that means that we embed sustainability in the way that we do business. Our Unilever Compass sets out action in the area of climate, nature, people, waste. And all of those challenges are hugely interconnected, and they also really need joined-up solutions. I think, many people already mentioned it, that if only there was a silver bullet. We set out an ambitious target to be net zero by 2039 across scope 1, 2 and 3 emissions. So that's quite an ambition. And of course, that will require us to take action in our own operations, no doubt about it, but also in our value chain. I think, Robin, you mentioned it as well. Also for us, the carbon footprint is the largest actually outside of our own operations. We know that our brands will have to play a key role. And we also believe that we need to influence use our influence to accelerate action in the wider society. So there's one example I would like to tell you a little bit more about where we are reducing emissions, which is the work that we're doing in regenerative agriculture. You really see that many of us are trying to find our way there, I think. We currently have 7 scaled-up projects running, and we are in the process of landing 40 this year in 2023. And we have a roadmap at the moment to have 100 by 2027. And by then we will cover about 650,000 hectares, work with more than 90 partners, and we cover about 27 different crops. So it is quite a significant program, and we really do take this space quite seriously. And we have some first indications that it will help us as a stepping stone to net zero. So we have a project running already for a bit longer with one of our tomato suppliers, Agras in Spain. And what we saw is that the farmers that were enrolled in that program, they actually showed a minus 37% reduction in greenhouse gas in 2022 versus 2021. And they achieved that by using less energy for irrigation, but also less fertilizer. And the beauty is that there was no impact on yield. And that's the first indication, but it's a green shoot. Because we really understand, and it has been mentioned before, that we are on a learning curve here. And not all of the answers, not all of the science is known, but we also feel there is no time to lose. So we'd better start, and we'd better get learning along the way. And we know that it will take a number of years before we will start seeing the environmental impact of the projects that we are landing. And we also realize we will have to pivot, we will have to learn. And I think what's really important to call out is there's absolutely no way we can do this alone. I mean, no-brainer that we will have to work with farmers, but we will also have to work with suppliers, with governments, with academia, for them to help to co-fund the transition, but also, help us with technical knowledge, with education, but also with measuring the impact. So it is something that, I think it's going to be a massive challenge for the food industry, because this is going to be something where we will have to partner with many, many people and going through that learning curve. We do believe that if you want to be climate leaders, you do need to use your scale and your influence to also accelerate climate action in society. And one example is the work that we are doing to democratize plant-based eating, also something that was mentioned already. We are very clear that it is not up to us to decide for people what to eat. But we do believe that it is up to us to make plant-based eating and healthy eating accessible to all. We have been expanding our meat and dairy alternative business in the recent years. We have acquired, for instance, a brand called The Vegetarian Butcher. And that brand is currently supplying the plant-based Whopper to Burger King in Europe. And a fun fact to mention is that at the moment in Belgium, of all of the Whoppers that are being sold in Burger King, 1 out of 3 Whoppers are now plant-based. And in Germany, that's 1 out of 5. So you really do start to see this shift happening, which I actually think is quite encouraging. And of course, there's more to go after. I already mentioned this Global Food Innovation Center that we built. This is the place where we are bringing our top innovators together who are creating an ecosystem so that we can really land these breakthrough innovations that we need to move towards that sustainable food system. And also here, partnerships is key. We will have to work with others. And we often use the phrase, if you think you can do it alone, you don't think big enough. So also in this area of plant-based, we have quite a number of partnerships and we're working with companies like Algenuity and Enough, for instance, to see whether we can diversify the base of the plant-based proteins that we're using in our products. There are 2 more things I would like to mention where we are looking at reducing our carbon footprint. So it's not only Regen Ag, we will have to do much more. So we're looking at reducing ingredients in our product design that actually by itself have quite a high carbon footprint. So think about vegetable oil in mayonnaise or MSG in bouillon or even dairy protein in many of our designs. And that's where R&D is critical. Because if you make those changes, you have to make sure that you also maintain the taste and the performance of these products. Because we know that if a product doesn't taste well, people don't buy it, however healthy it is or good for the planet. And that's where R&D will play a critical role. And I think the second one to call out is we can reduce our carbon footprint by moving away from plastic into paper solutions. And there where that's not possible, move away from virgin plastic into recyclable plastic. So that's also a journey that we are on. So can the EU actually become the Silicon Valley of R&D? It's a question I ask myself. And I've given you a few examples. And I hope that shows that I do think there is the potential for the EU to become the global standard in sustainability and innovation. But I do think it will take more R&D. And I also think it will mean that we need very clear regulations. And I'm probably also talking to the converted here, but industry needs predictable science-based regulation for it to flourish. And I think it's also really important for companies to have the confidence to invest. I think the other thing, and again, as an R&D person, you might not be surprised that I'm saying that, but I think in the European funding framework, to have the opportunity to lower the cost of projects where we are landing innovative technologies in food products, I think is super important. Because we will need those innovative technologies to actually make that move towards a sustainable food system. And I think the last point to make is I think the moment we put new regulations and policies in place, it's super important that we ensure the interdependency and the coherence. Because everything is so interconnected to each other that if we put a regulation in place here, which is actually having a negative effect there, then I don't think it's bringing us where we want. And one example to call out, we will need food processing in order to make sure that we still deliver affordable products that are safe, but also we will need it to manage food waste. And there are some, people that believe that in order to deliver healthy products, we might not need food processing anymore. I think we need to be very careful. In summary or in conclusion, I think co-creation is absolutely critical for innovation. Partnerships are key. I mentioned that already quite a number of times. I think R&D is helping to power the move away from fossil fuels, from plastics, but also helping to transform the food system. There's no way we can do this alone. We have to work with others. And we really hope that the EU will be a partner for us here so to make sure that we will have many more innovations to come in the next few years, within the time. Thank you.